Hi everyone. Good evening from the UK. I don't know where you're tuning in from. How are you? Hope all is good. I wanted to chat more about healing and supercharge your life, which is the name of my program, but it's also about looking at your own healing. So I wanted to talk more about the components of it as I'm still healing myself, and explain the why, etc. So many of you know my story, but many of you don't know my story. So nearly 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer, the serious kind, without getting into all the details, and given 6 months to live by doctors if I did nothing medically. I'd had a history of, I'd had training behind that of mind body work, done a lot of training prior to that diagnosis. And I decided not to take the doctor's advice. And I was really using myself as a science experiment and decided to heal myself holistically. It wasn't quite as straightforward as all of that, but that's kind of the thing in a nutshell. It was basically what actually happened was I got the diagnosis and I thought, and I'm going to swear here, so if you've got children in the room, close their ears. Excuse me. And I literally thought, fuck that. When I go, it's on my terms. And that started the process of me holistically healing without medical support. Now, I'm sharing my story. This and my caveat here, and I work with people who have gone through trauma, are going through trauma, have had health crisis, are going through health crisis. My caveat is there is only ever your way. This was my way. I had absolute certainty I was not going to do what the doctors were advocating. And I would stand by that again. But that is not everyone's path. So that's the caveat with all of this. But I worked on a myriad of different areas within me. I basically ripped the floorboards up of who I thought I was. I changed my life. I left a marriage. I left the States. I moved back in with family at age 32. I took up running. I'd never been a runner. There's so many things I did, and I need to talk about bits of them. Excuse me, probably not the best time with me still. This is lurgy, nothing more sinister. And it took about 4 years. And then I woke up one morning and thought, it's time to get a smear test. And I did. And by this point, I was in a different place. And I went to the local doctors and had a smear test, and it came back clear. And that's the short story. When I made the decision, I had absolutely no certainty. I didn't know what was going to happen. I knew nothing about the path. I just knew I wanted to preserve my right to have children. Ironically, I made the decision not to, but I wanted to keep my body parts. That was basically what it was. I wanted to keep my body parts. And chose not to have children. And that wasn't a medical thing. It was a personal choice. I don't think it was ever something I really wanted to do. I'm going to do a whole thing on child-free by choice at some point, because I'm very passionate about that, and having had to defend that decision over the years. I really, really want to be a speaker for women who choose not to have children. But that's not what this is meant to be about. So I worked on movement, which I talked about yesterday. I worked on mindset. So all of the pieces that I've brought into my program were pieces I worked on through my own healing. It wasn't as straightforward because it was unfolding as I went through the journey. So I didn't have this structure of, oh, I need to work on this bit now. It was just literally what serendipitously crossed my path at different points in time. And I just literally almost lay myself open and said, to the divine, show me what to do next. Show me what to do next. And that was how I was guided. I was guided to people, to places, to events, to healing modalities, all kinds of things. But ultimately, I think it was really my will inside that brought me through. And then that came through all the different pieces. So I wanted to talk a bit about mindset today. Mindset is, excuse me, a big thing. And there's a lot of people talking about it. There's lots of great books out there. There's lots of great coaches out there. There's lots of methods out there. I'm not really a method person. I believe the system should fit you and not the other way around, not you fit the system. So I am someone that if there's too much structure, I shut down, and it doesn't work for me. It does in some areas of life. It really doesn't in healing. So the mindset was a piece that I've probably really only come to understand since coming through it. And it was probably something that unconsciously evolved for me. One of the things I did on my journey through cancer was journal. I always loved to write. It was something I wasn't doing at the time. And it was a big piece of shifting my mindset. And all I did was literally what I would call stream of consciousness journaling, which sounds fancy explanation for literally just pad or notebook and pen. And I just wrote how I was feeling, what I was thinking. And I did that pretty solidly for the first year. And it was a way of detoxifying my system of whatever I was holding inside that was part of keeping the trauma, for want of a better word, locked inside of me. And in doing that, it really helped. It helped me start to kind of shift into a better mindset. I think I would say I was always someone who aspired to be happy, but didn't always sit in that mindset. And so when we work on that piece in the program, I use the program is designed around my clairvoyance and my ability to look at your energy field. So this is the electromagnetic field of energy, which surrounds your body, and look at the frequencies going on and see what is affecting the different parts of you from being well or affecting your life. I've worked with people a lot over the years, all kinds of areas of issue, jobs, relationships, deep-seated trauma. And the clairvoyance is a way to be able to start to look at the unconscious parts that we can't get at consciously. And so I use that piece within the mindset. We look at that basic level, where you sit in your head. What are those underlying dialogue? What's the underlying dialogue that's feeding your subconscious? And we start to sort of pull that out. It's almost like threads. It's like unraveling wool. We start to pull that out, and we start to just lay it out and look at it, because it's really about you. That my whole program is designed around. It's about you uncovering for yourself. I'm really holding space for you to do that, with the experience of having gone through it myself with my own health. And so we start to create a base. I always think the mindset, when it's in a good place, is like a good base level. Now, we're not trying to do what I call paper over the cracks with what has been coined, because this always happens, doesn't it? Toxic positivity. So we're not trying to be falsely positive here. That does nothing. All that does is suppress anything that needs to be addressed. And it will come up at some point later in your life, probably as a health issue. You push it down, it's going to bounce back up at some point. So we want to kind of work on that mindset by establishing what's going on in there first, and then finding that base level for you. What is that? Some people, I really believe this, some people are quite happy being depressed. That sounds bizarre, But I think people are. Some people are quite happy sitting in an element of a victim mentality, and some people are quite happy being in a low level vibration of depression, and they're comfortable in that space. One of the things I really learned as I was going through cancer is I absolutely hated that, hated feeling like that. I really like being happy. I really like being supportive to other people. I really like being super happy sunshine. I actually genuinely do. And I know some people look at me kind of with a lot of eye rolling. I don't care. That's actually how I enjoy being. I'm not always in that space. And definitely not that first year I came back from the US with cancer. I was I want to say car accident, but I don't really want to describe it like that. I was in a space where I was really feeling the emotions. And I separate that out in the program as a separate area to look at, but really they kind of cross mood and mindset, as anything that you're not feeling that's sitting within you manifests in some way. So the journaling for me was really working with that mindset, and it was nothing complicated. I mean, I don't even think I'd read half the self-development books I've read in the last 20 years. I hadn't heard of at that point. I was just instinctively following, I need to do this. I need to do this. It just kind of was guided. And so this is what I bring into working with people now. It's everything that I've gone through. And it's not necessarily going to be, so my program is 6 weeks, but you're not necessarily going to work the equal amount on each section, because that might not be relevant to you. So when I work with people, it's always bespoke. We've got this plan because these are all the components that make up your health and well-being, but you might be quite comfortable in one area, and that may not be the area that you need to put extra focus on, or it might be adjustments in all the areas. It varies. So just going to see if there are any comments. Yeah, so that is how mindset can play into all of this. Now, I don't believe mindset alone is enough for anyone to come through their trauma or get well. I think it's a piece of the story. It's one piece of the story. Movement was what I talked about yesterday, which is another piece, because you're literally living in a body. It's designed to move. And so if you've got that movement and you've got a mindset coupled with that movement, you start to see how you can really get the machine, your system, functioning to a really good place. So I'm going to leave it there for tonight. That is the mindset piece. If you're interested in Supercharge Your Life, which is my 6-week program, it's a 1-to-1, and it's $999 for January. DM me the word super if you want to chat more about it or you want more information. Have a great afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world.